Good news, folks. Nancy Pelosi says that Democrats will pass Biden's safety net program very, very soon, and Chuck Schumer is now reaching an agreement with Mitch McConnell on raising the federal debt ceiling. But House Democrats are gearing up to pass Biden's plan to dramatically expand the social safety net. The sweeping $1.9 trillion economic legislation stands as a pillar of Biden's domestic agenda. It will deliver on key Democratic priorities by dramatically expanding social services for Americans, working to mitigate and address the climate crisis, and increasing access to healthcare and delivering aid to families and children. But Democrats had been waiting for cost estimates from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office before voting the legislation after moderates demanded information. The Congressional Budget Office released its final scoring for the bill early Thursday evening, estimating that the package result in a net increase in the deficit, totaling $367 billion over the 2022 to 2031 period. But White House officials met with moderate House Democrats after the numbers were released. If the legislation passes the House on Thursday night, it would face key hurdles in the Senate. And as a result, Democrats are working hard to keep their fragile coalition of moderates and progressives united behind the package. What are your thoughts about Nancy Pelosi, everybody? Tell me in the comments down below. Is she doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus check? I want to know your thoughts on this, everybody. Tell me in the comments.
I want to ask you, after this week, obviously this is a momentous moment for the Democratic Party, but you also had to deal with the censure vote this week. You had to deal last night with Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's 8.5 hour speech. What do you feel like the tone and tenor of the House of Representatives is at this moment, and what can be done to try to bridge some of those gaps in trust?
Well, let me just say that I don't specifically agree with your first sentence saying a great day for the Democratic Party. Maybe it is. But it's a great day for our country. And that's why we are so thrilled about it. It's for the people. It should be bipartisan. It should be bipartisan. The fact that they would rather give tax cuts to the richest people at 83% of the benefits going to the top 1% without any pay for is a stark difference between what we do in this legislation. And I didn't even pay attention to the speech. I don't even listen to most of the speeches on the other side because they're not fraught with meaning or fact. So I don't have my computer get bothered with that. But the fact is that the censure, they could improve their behavior. They don't have to threaten to kill members of Congress or threaten the life of the President of the United States. So you say, what can we do to bring people together? Well, we can encourage everyone to honor the Rule 23 of the House, which is that you must bring credit to the House of Representatives. But with that, I'm going to yield to my colleagues for any questions, answers they may have on the subject of your question. Mr.
Interesting and important hearing. I appreciate it. Before I begin my questioning, I want to acknowledge the young lady sitting behind me, Caroline Colin, who is has been my staff member on this committee for a number of years, who is leaving me for the energy office of the governor of Maine. So this will be a last hearing, and I wanted to acknowledge Caroline's good work. Caroline, raise your hand. There you go. Okay. Thank you. A couple of issues. Mr. Nally, gasoline prices follow oil prices. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And oil prices have basically tripled per barrel. The last time I looked, September of 20, it was $25 a barrel. Now it's close to 80.
The mid-80s, yes.
Correct. So that means gasoline prices are going to increase. That's just the reality. Why has oil gone up so much?
Well, I think it's coming out of the pen.
It's the recovery, right? Increased demand.
Yes.
There's one law that this Congress can't repeal, the law of supply and demand.
The demand is outpacing production.
And therefore, gasoline prices are up. I'd like to introduce for the record a recent article from Forbes about the blame for gas prices. I once woke up on a beautiful Maine morning and said to my wife, I brought us this beautiful day. This was when I was governor. And my wife said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I get blamed for things that aren't my fault. I may as well take credit for them every now and then. And I think often politicians, and particularly presidents, get blamed for gas prices, which in fact fluctuates substantially, as we know, based upon oil prices and fluctuations in the market, rarely from executive action. So I would like to submit this article.
Without
It goes
objection.
into it in some detail. Second is natural gas. I'm really worried about exports. I've been making this argument for 5 years. And I have a chart that indicates what's going on. And remember, I talked about the law of supply and demand. So this is exports, and if you take it back, this starts with 2018. If you take it back about another 5 years, they were zero. And now, as you see, we're up to 10 billion cubic feet a day, which is about 10 or 11% of current U.S. production. So it's gone from 0 to 10 or 11% that's going to export. As the chairman says, because of high prices, that's where the gas is going to go. My problem is the projection, and we've got plants that have been approved to take this number to 20% and even higher. Our friend Mr. Bryce is an advocate of the free market. There is no question, is Mr. Bryce, that an increase of 20% in demand for a commodity that, at least at this present time, seems to be growing fairly slowly, is going to increase prices, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay, no question about that. We are exporting our principal advantage in the world economy. We are literally subsidizing Chinese manufacturing by sending them our natural gas. The other item I want to submit for the record is a letter received just yesterday by Industrial Energy Consumers of America, which are big corporations, big companies employing 1.8 million people with $1 trillion worth of sales. If exports were limited to a surplus, then it wouldn't affect domestic prices, but it has to be affecting domestic prices, and it's getting serious now, but it's going to be a real problem in 3 or 4 or 5 years because we're on track to export 20, 30, 40% of our natural gas. And that is going to be a disaster for an advantage that we have now. All the testimony has been how low our prices are compared to the rest of the world. Why would we want to screw that up? And that's what's happening to our manufacturers. Senator Barrasso is right, to our electric consumers. We are squandering an advantage right now because of uncontrolled exports of natural gas. Now, what I'm going to be proposing legislation, not to limit it, not to control it, not to cut it off, but to at least have the Department of Energy do a study when they're going to approve an export license as to what the effect will be on domestic prices. To me, that's just common sense. We don't do that now. In fact, there's a presumption in favor that it's in the national interest, that's the phrase, the national interest in the Gas Act to approve these applications.